Hello and welcome to Cheppy Today. My name is Will and I'll be going through some of the most talked about topics in crypto. If you want to be kept up to date with the discussion, remember to give us a like and to subscribe. So in massive turnaround news, the CBOE has resubmitted its joint proposal for an ETF with VanEck and SolidX to the SEC. That's right, we're talking about ETFs again. But it's okay because instead of pandering to the idea of one, we're going to discuss the potential upsides and downsides and whether we even need one. But before we do, here's a little background on the latest story. So this latest development comes after the CBOE withdrew a proposed rule change that would allow for a listing of a Bitcoin ETF. Jan VanEck, chief executive of, believe it or not, VanEck, explained that the reason for withdrawal was because of the US government shutdown. The shutdown hindered important talks with the SEC, and thus the CBOE, VanEck, and SolidX decided to withdraw the application in order to avoid any automatic rejection or, strangely enough, automatic approval. Clearly, with the reopening of government, talks went ahead and the proposal was back on the table. But do we really need a Bitcoin ETF? The consensus seems to be no, and there's a myriad of reasons as to why. But one of the most important reasons is that crypto has grown past an ETF offering much in the way of a catalyst. Since the ETF hype back in Q3 of last year, we've had quite a few more reasons to be bullish, namely the announcement of Bakkt and Fidelity and a number of other financial institutions showing interest in the space. Whether or not this interest has waned is another discussion, but the bottom line is an ETF just doesn't really cut it anymore. So we may not need an ETF, but a better question may be, would an ETF be beneficial for the space? So for starters, an ETF is a proven method of increasing value. The price of gold, for example, historically rose after the introduction of the world's first gold-linked ETF back in 2003. The price of an ounce of gold went from $330 to $1,300 with market exposure as a given reason. There are also many that would argue that an ETF would serve as a tool for legitimacy, in the sense that once a regulated and listed exchange allows BTC on board, people may take the space more seriously. On top of this, there's always the argument that an ETF widens the base demographic, opening up to a less niche investor, and perhaps those with a little more capital, i.e. the Wall Street boys. Similarly, having a large amount of Bitcoin held by the relevant custodian removes the chance of it being liquidized during trading. However, in direct contrast to this, especially the last point, is the danger of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin being held centrally, controlled at the whim of one party or institution. Then again, that's an argument against all large institutions, along with whales in general. And then we reach into the dichotomy of the fundamentals of crypto versus our need to grow, and the strange need for validation from Wall Street and its large financial institutions. Bitcoin was literally created in direct opposition of these institutions, thanks to their many failings. It's what most in the crypto industry are backing, i.e. decentralization, the removal of a middleman, and the hope of financial freedom, both in terms of a potentially lucrative investment and a genuinely fair and equal currency. It seems almost backwards to rely on the very institutions that crypto were born to oppose. Then again, it can be argued that these institutions are a necessary evil, needed to gain momentum and nothing else. So do we need an ETF? No. Do we want one? Maybe. So finally, and in an example that the crypto space can grow without outside intervention, Binance has announced that they've enabled credit and debit card purchases. Using both MasterCard and Visa cards, customers can purchase Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and XRP. So this news blew up crypto Twitter, with many celebrating and congratulating Binance, and some even took a chance to dig at Coinbase, tagging them in the comments along with the abbreviation RIP. However, not everyone was thrilled, especially when reading the small print, particularly the part about fees. It appears that Binance will charge what they deem a low fee of 3.5% per transaction, or 10 USD, whichever is highest. Some have also noticed there's a minimum buy of one whole Bitcoin, kind of defeating the idea of divisibility. While this caters for those who have a bit more cash to flash, it does somewhat exclude the new bloods who might just want a taste of crypto before jumping fully in. Arguably, it will be those people that form a base for mass adoption. No matter how much we need a large injection of capital, we also need that wider base. Regardless of Binance's target demographic, this is still a very bullish move. On-ramps and off-ramps are imperative to the growth of the crypto industry. The more we can remove barriers for entry or exit, the further we move towards a user-friendly space. And that is something that will drive adoption much further than any crypto ETF ever could. But as always, we'd love to hear your take on the topics discussed. Do you think we could benefit from a crypto ETF? Would you use Binance over Coinbase now? So as always, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.